Science says only 8% of people achieve their goals. What makes some people successful and others stay stagnant? How do we identify the qualities and skills necessary to elevate our lives? Well, that's what I want to talk about. That's what my energy is all about. My goal is to help inspire people to be their best selves. These conversations will help people identify their best qualities, bring them out, and understand how to develop plans to achieve their goals. I'm Kayla B, and welcome to the Big Boss Energy Podcast. Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl Kayla B, and we are back with another episode of Big Boss Energy. Y'all know how we come in. We got a real big boss in the building today, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. But first, I do want to give you guys this quick statistic, and I think it is really cool that right now in the US, there's over 70,000 tech startups that are being created annually, but more specifically, 60% of entrepreneurs in this space right now are very vested into AI, and they believe that is going to be the future of technology. So today, we have somebody who is really looking to disrupt the software tech industry, and what's really cool about that is the type of software that they're looking to create. He has done over 18 million in advised deals for other people in real estate, advising them, as well as raised over 80 million for investors, and has his own academy called Bread and Butter Academy with over 3,000 students that he has helped. So I'm really excited to introduce today's guest. Hey Tori, what's up?
Hey. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for dropping the gems. You only 26. You a youngin'. How you did all this? We want to know. So we're going to get into it today, all right? But before we get into all that, I really like for my guests to get to know everybody and really understand who they are as a person, what they were motivated by, and how they actually got to where they're at. So I want you to just start off by telling us a little bit more about your upbringing, where you're from, and kind of like what motivated you to start hustling and get into the bag the way you have been.
Coming from Memphis, Tennessee, it's a small city, a small big city in my head, but not much opportunity unless you're a rapper or athlete. You know, it's really, really hard to make it to the top. And coming from a city where they have that crab in a bucket mentality, I've always wanted to do something different and show my city that there is a better way and better opportunity and more value in actually pursuing what you're good at. Yeah. When it comes to me just being a hustler, I think I've been in survival mode, you know, since I guess the day I came out the womb. I've always liked business. I've always liked to sell things. I've always liked the creative structure and strategy of just like organization and leadership. So when it comes to like the hustling part of me, I mean, that's always been ingrained in me. But, you know, nonetheless, I could say that, you know, coming from a small city where big dreams are looked at as pipe dreams, you know, it makes it really, really hard to make your way to the top. So I like to prove everybody wrong and make my way to the top.
So when you say pipe dreams, you feel like people in your city really not going to back a dream or support it really?
Oh no, I remember growing up, man, you know, just even down to like music choices, music selections, movie choices, like you're ostracized and chastised by so many things when it comes to being different. Right. You know, especially in Memphis, that everybody is the same. So when you're different, you know, you stand out. And sometimes some people don't understand the value of standing out can be better than being a part of the same group. So, you know, just to hear, you know, people saying like, oh, I support that, or tell me more, or I'm interested, it's very rare. It's very rare.
So where do you feel like first sparked, or like you said you've been selling things your whole life, so what was like the first thing? Take me back to like when you started really hustling. Like what was you doing?
Sneakers. I love fashion. I love apparel. I love clothes. So
yeah.
I would just go on Facebook Marketplace. I would go on Craigslist. I would find some nice sneakers. If I could put $10 on them, $20 on them, I'd sell them. Believe it or not, I've probably worked, anybody that knows me, I've probably worked at least like maybe 30 jobs. Like
Really?
I hated working.
You remember your first job?
Popeyes.
You worked at Popeyes?
Eating biscuits in the back. But
Eating biscuits.
yeah, but I hated Popeyes. But the best job I could say nonetheless that showed me my value and my skills was Best Buy. I worked at Best Buy in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 1425 Avenues Mall. Therese Sieber, it's my dog. But anyone, you know, that were to hit up Therese could, you know, nonetheless say that I was the best salesman within my department. And seeing that I was able to generate millions and millions of dollars in sales for another company, I think that's where I kind of wanted to take the pivot to say, like, let me give it a try on my own. And I took something I was good at. I knew apparel, I knew sneakers, I knew clothing. And like I said, I would just find either new or used sneakers. I would find them at a discount. I would go to Ross. I would go to TJ Maxx and try to find things that I could just put a tax on. I was just reselling on eBay.
Nice.
So that would be the first venture, I guess I could say.
You was hustling young. Yeah. That's crazy. Well, shout out to Best Buy because now you doing a little tech thing. So I guess it all kind of
raveled all the way back around.
You know what I mean? But take me through like, okay, so you grew up in this environment where it's really hard. You realize you're a really great seller. So talk about like understanding and honing in on specific skills that you have as an individual, right? Because I think it's really important for us to identify what we're good at and then funnel in our energy into that. Sometimes I feel like, I know me, like I've always been a hustler, but I just tried stuff. Like it wasn't necessarily always aligned to like who I was as an individual or like something I may be good at. Yeah, I'm good at selling, but talk about like being able to like create a vision and understanding like I have this specific skill set. How do I hone in and become a master or expert in what I'm doing?
I think the first thing is believing in yourself, because a lot of people fail to assist themselves. Everybody thinks that everything's just supposed to fall in their lap. And I think the biggest thing is like self-belief, self-discipline, and then confidence. I think that plays a large part. I've been in a room with people who have been 10 times more successful than me. I've been in the room with people who have had 10 times more money than me. I've been in the room with people, you know, who have had 10 times more opportunity than me, and yet the room still migrates to me. And I think that air or that stink of confidence that you're allowed to have when you're pursuing something with that skill set plays a big part, because a lot of people lack that luster and that confidence. They may be smart, they may be bright, they may be brilliant, they may have the best idea, you know. Right. But I think the biggest thing is being confident in what you want and understanding that vision. But I can say, you know, for me specifically, I've just always been good. I could get into car sales tomorrow. I don't know. I want to start and get into contract and development. I feel like anything that I want to do that I have an interest in, whether it's temporary or long term, I could just be excellent at it. So I think that just once again goes back to having confidence and that understanding that, you know, anyone can go learn a trade, but when you have a skill, it can be God-given. And a lot of people don't try to realize what those God-given skills are. So when you do have those and understand those God-given skills, I think it's very important to use those to apply with that confidence to whatever you want to go towards.
How do you feel like you make that connection with God to better understand what skill He's blessed you with? Or because a lot of people are out here searching for their purpose. Like I feel like that's a major thing, especially when you're spiritual. You're like, God, like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Like, how do you feel like you identified your purpose, especially more spiritually? Like, you feel like you just prayed on it and it came to you? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
I feel like when it comes to certain things, discernment is very important. Asking for discernment, seeking discernment, and paying attention to the signs that are revolving around you. And people also have to understand that your initial primary goal in the beginning changes over time. You know, I have something actually when I was working out yesterday, I was noticing that, you know, I was like, you know, my workout partner, let me go do some stair climbs. Well, we wanted to go find the tallest building we can stair climb on, and I look at life the same way. It's like you're working hard, you're trying to get to the top. And in the process of trying to get to the top of one building, we saw another building. We was like, well, let's try this one. And in the process of getting to another building, we was like, let's try this one. And I feel like life is the same way, is that when you're in the process of working hard to the top, sometimes the idea of what the top looks like can change as you go forward with your ventures in life. And I think it's very important to understand that purpose can change. Purpose can be definite, but purpose can also be variable, you know. Yeah. Purpose can change.
For sure. So it seems like you started off more so doing real estate. So talk about that, because your purpose is clearly like, not maybe change, but like you said, you're very agile and adaptable to whatever it is that you're focused on in that moment. So take us through the journey of like how you even got into real estate, and then we'll figure out like the softer part.
Well, once again, I consider myself an artsy person, I guess I could say. I love anything dealing with the arts, anything music related, movie related, designer related, interior design related, like anything that has some type of aesthetic or message or vision behind how it was created. That's always pushed me to want to get, you know, further into learning myself and to learning other things around me. And when it came to me moving from sneakers, I liked selling sneakers because I got to go on Shopify and create my website and make my website look really pretty. And I ended up bumping into a guy on Instagram, and we did a book swap. And off a simple book swap, he was like, you know, you have to get the gab. You should think about wholesaling. And I gave that a try, and I hate it. And in the process of doing wholesaling, I realized, like, why am I doing all the work for the next person when I can do the same amount of work for myself? Right. And in the process of doing it, I realized it was the same as doing a website. Like, I can take something that I have an interest in and create it and allow that to represent me. You know, so if I want to fix a property or rehab a property, I can stage the furniture the way I like. I can pick the appliances that I like. I can pick the aesthetics that represent me. I can pick the coloring that represent me. And, you know, that's kind of what got me into real estate in the perspective of just realizing that there are other avenues aside from just making a website and selling sneakers, and that I could take that next big step. How the two came connected, honestly, was just simply a guy literally telling me on Instagram, like, hey, you should get into real estate. I think it will be very easy for you. And I gave it a try, and I just blinked my eyes, and 2 years later, I built my portfolio, 32 single family houses later, and it was there. I was there.
That's not a blink of an eye. Now you got to tell us a little bit more about how you got 32 properties in 24 months. That's so on average you was doing almost 1.5 properties a month at that rate.
About 2.
Yeah. So obviously you can't get half a property. You get what I'm saying though. So like, how do you? And how old were you? Because you only 27. I don't know if y'all know. Tori's only 26 now. So how old were you when this happened?
I was living in McDonough at the time, so I was 22.
And you had a portfolio of
30. At the time, it was more than that. It was maybe like 43 or 44.
And were these primarily? What city did you primarily
Shelby
tap
County.
into?
Shelby
County. Okay.
Shelby County.
Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis,
Popular.
Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay.
But tax liens. In the process of me learning about wholesaling, I learned about some of the negative implications or connotations and the negative community of wholesaling, where people are just pushing out courses and making things seem so easy and making it seem like you could just find a property owner and get a contract and then sell it and make $100,000. Yeah. When I kind of went through the headaches of seeing that wasn't what it was, I wanted to create my own system, which was mediation financing, where I found a property owner and I see if there's meat on the bone within that property, and if that property needs or is subject to rehab or renovation. Right. I come in and I build a network of lenders, and I take their capital and then I leverage their capital to rehab the property. Now, once I've used their capital to rehab the property, I refinance the property in my name. So once I refinance in my name, I give the property owner what they're requesting, and I give the investor what they're requesting. But now I have a property in my name that now, of course, I have a mortgage, but I have an asset in my name that I now own that I can put a tenant in and get cash flow from. Right. So that was, how I kind of started building the footprint and the blueprint, in a sense, to actually start stabilizing my income. And then in the process of that, I started learning about tax liens. I had a partner who was like, yo, you can just go down to probate and get a house for like $3,000.
Yeah.
I was like, no way, dog. Like,
yeah. I just found out about the tax lien wave, like maybe in the past 6 months, I would say. And there's like a website, you could literally go find houses for like $2,000.
And then and you literally clear the title and they're worth $20,000, $10,000. They may need 20 grand, 25 grand in rehabs, but the ARVs are in the mid 200s, the high 200s. And, I have a saying, I call it white collar, blue collar counties. So white collar counties are where, most people work corporate jobs, professional jobs, they make a certain amount of income and they can buy. The blue collar counties are where most people actually go out and exchange their labor in return for pay, but physical labor. They don't get to sit in a cubicle. These are the bus drivers, your sanitary workers, your postmen, your school teachers. They have to actually go do physical labor to get that capital. And I like the blue collar counties because when you're building a rental portfolio, it's easier to find the audience that you need, or it's not necessarily not the audience, but the tenants that you need to place into the property. Versus in a buyer's market, if the market is hot, then it's hard to find the property to actually, fix a rehab. And then if the market's tight, it's hard to find the buyer for the properties that you may have, so you're bottlenecked. But I learned in those blue collar counties that you always have an opportunity to rent, because everybody needs to rent. Right. Whether it's an economic expansion or economic recession, economical depression, or whatever you want to term it, based off whatever economical parameters or values you want to use, everybody's always going to rent.
Right. Awesome. So you are now working on a software company.
Yes.
And it kind of funnels into that because I heard you talk about lending, right? So tell everybody about your, what you've been working on. I know, but I want you to tell everybody.
So in the process of OPM, I see a lot of influencers and people misadvertise the value of leverage in OPM and understanding how the value of money works.
What's OPM for everybody?
Other people's money.
Okay.
OPM is a slang term. And when it comes to, certain indicators, financial literacy is more than just, I'm gonna fix my credit and get some credit cards. It's economics, it's taxes, it's politics, it's policy, it's finances, insurance, placing all those things together to actually understand what currency is, and currency and the difference between currency and money. But anywho, nonetheless, in the process of me becoming more successful and pursuing my entrepreneurship ventures, I was always using my own capital. And one of my partners that I ended up partnering with a long time ago, he's like, why don't you use credit cards? I'm like, why don't I use a credit card to buy a house? Like, I can't just go to a title office and swipe a credit card.
Close with a credit
card. Right.
They're
going to look at me like I'm crazy. And then the next thing is liquidity. Depending on if I'm dealing with a hard money lender, I need to be able to have the liquidity.
Right.
And he was like, well, what if I told you that, you just get your score up to par, you can PG your LLCs, you can actually PG multiple entities.
What's PG? You can't be using all the acronyms now. Everybody don't know what this
Personal
means.
guarantee. So it's like a cosign. So if I have my own entity, I can cosign my entity.
Okay.
It's funny because, you never want to cosign. So if your brother, your sister, dad, anybody
not cosign.
Don't do it. But cosigning your own entity, you can never lose with that. And being able to co-sign that entity, I got, roughly around like 200 grand and some change in just credit cards.
Were you co-signing your personal with the business?
Yes, I was co-signing my personal with the business.
Okay, cool.
And then I got the cards. Now, it's like John Doe. Now, John Doe chooses to liquidate his cards. He can do that and then have that liquid capital. So now you have that liquid capital and reserves, and you also have that capital to do what you need to do. So when you are going to that lender, or you are starting that that feature venture, you have the liquidity of what you need to move forward, and you're not restricted to the lending parameters or the lending opportunities that the banks may offer you. But anywho, nonetheless, in the process of doing that, I learned how valuable that was for me. So I was like, by this time I had already started bread and butter. So I was teaching everybody how to get into real estate. I was teaching about hard money lenders. I was teaching about other types of lending, but I wasn't teaching them, the more creative ways of financing.
Right.
So in the process of that, I was trying to get people capital, and my old partner, he was the person that was doing the lines of credit and the credit cards and the loans and the lines of exposure. Excuse me. But when it came to that, I saw the amount of time that it took for him to fund one person. When I say fund, it's him knowing the specific cards after reviewing the credit report. He sits there, he looks at the credit report for 30 minutes. Then I have to communicate with the client, assuming that they're technically inclined or they're tech savvy, how to set up their credit report, what's on the credit report. It was just so time consuming just for the onboarding alone. And then when it came to the funding process itself, aligning up all the tabs, figuring out the VPNs, ensuring which cards and what data points are best for the client to get the highest approvals. It would literally take maybe a week for them to fully fund a client. So I took my same knowledge of sneakers, because I would use sneaker bots also.
Right.
I would use sneaker bots to John Doe, because Nike and Adidas don't like it. But I would use sneaker bots to bot. So we will have a bot watch a page, like let's say Raf Simons is about to drop something.
Okay.
And it's pending, it's coming soon. And it's gonna drop 12 o'clock at midnight on European time, or we're gonna be knocked out. But I wanna be able to win 100 pairs at once.
The sneakers. Okay.
So the bots are able to create multiple iterations of itself to make the website think that it's multiple people when it's the same person. So the bot would sit there and watch the page, and when the item is available, it will automatically fill it out with your card information, the shipping information, and confirm the purchase. Some bots are successful as others, and some aren't as successful as others. But by the end of, let's say, between 12 and 12:15, you have all the sneakers you need. I took the same knowledge of that and applied that to the lending products. And that's what allowed me to refine the process of lending. And in the process of also understanding the funding, that's what got me into insurance and taxes, and actually understanding the value that, once again, how money works, that you can get capital outside of just borrowing from a bank.
Right.
So that's what got me into the lending space, and then that's what kind of got me into the tech space of actually automating and refining and building the process of that.
So when you think about the tech space, I think about disruption, right? Like, we're in a market right now, in a space where if you don't have a real disruptive product, you're pretty much just falling in line and feeding the consumers that already kind of have another product out there. So talk about disruption and what it means to be in a space, or how do you look for a disruptive opportunity, if that makes sense, within a space? Because what you did was you took what you were doing and you realized there was this gap in a process or operationalizing something, and you said, okay, well, I'm gonna automate it, or I'm gonna put this process in place. So talk a little bit about being disruptive, one, and then two, like, how do you actually look for that opportunity to really be disruptive in this market today?
So I think the biggest thing is innovation comes first before disruption. You have to know how to innovate. You have to think like an innovator. You have to think like the greats, And when I say the greats, I'm talking about like the Steve Wozniaks, the Steve Jobs, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk. It's like, look at something, whether that can be a basic business model, an advanced business model, whatever that may be, and understand how to innovate that, how to optimize that, how to create systems to make that move faster, smoother, more refined. And then I think the next thing after that is the disruptionary part. And it kind of goes back to a previous podcast I was on where, blue ocean strategy. How can you place yourself in a realm where you have no competition? And I think that's the biggest form of disruption to me, because if there's no competition and you're creating something that's new and that's the new norm, everyone has to adjust to that. Disruption is very, very important, and people have to understand the sacrifices that come with disruption. And to answer the last question, I think, there are 3 key indicators to understanding how to be valuable in life. And the first thing is anyone can make 6 figures by working hard. You can go to McDonald's right now, make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. When we say 6 figures, anything $999,000, $99.99.
That's still 6 figures though.
It's $1 off $1 million.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone can make $1 million. I know anyone can make $1 million when you find a problem and you create a solution. Whatever that means, it can be the most simplest problem, such as, electric lawnmowers, that the lifetime of the battery could be too short and you want to create a new battery for it. Or, contractors are hard to communicate. There's no contractor platform, so let me make a platform. Whatever that may be, just random things. But look at the problems that you have in your own personal life as a consumer or as a business owner or even as an employee, and create that. And then the last thing is, you see tens of millions of hundreds of millions in a sense when you are able to find a problem, create a solution, and then disrupt and change lives while doing so. And I think that's, when you're able to stagger yourself up that ladder is when you can actually see how to find that niche or that area on where you can hone in and be successful.
Awesome. So with AI on the forefront right now, how do you feel like that's affecting disruption or enabling it? Do you feel like it's, will it take away from the disruptive industry because now we would just have AI able to do certain things? Or do you feel like it's enabling it because now you can actually build something with AI and pretty much really disrupt at a way more rapid pace, a more aggressive pace? Like, what do you see with AI kind of on the forefront?
I see AI being life-changing. We have 2 other realms of FU money in a sense, and that was crypto and NFTs.
Okay.
And, when it comes to AI, crypto, it's a high barrier of knowledge and high barrier of entry. And then when it comes to NFTs, it's a high barrier of knowledge, high barrier of understanding, and a high barrier of entry. But when it comes to AI, understanding how AI works at a base level and working your way up and implementing it into the current business models that you have now, I feel like it is disruptionary. I feel like that it is going to change. The fear mongering that I am seeing where they're saying AI it will replace jobs, yes, I do believe so. I think AI is going to be the biggest, most valuable proponent, especially to the Black and brown communities. I think everyone needs to understand what AI is and how AI works and the value behind AI. But nonetheless, I do feel that when it comes to artificial intelligence, I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
You said it's most important to our community. Why do you think that?
Because I think with our community, once again, we're raised in a way where we think struggling is a form of self-sufficiency. And we think that the dependency of someone else. So us, especially in Black and brown communities, when we run a business, it's hard to say, oh, do I want him to record? Do I want this camera guy to do my video for me? Oh, he may steal from me. He may screw me over. Do I want to, go in a partnership with this guy? But it's like with AI, it allows you to take the creativity of yourself, duplicate yourself, refine yourself, optimize yourself, and systemize yourself, and grow that business model that you need at a low cost, at a low entry level, at a low barrier of entry. And I feel like for the Black and brown communities, it is very imminent to understand AI, because now we're going from a time where you have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, get the kids ready for school, put them on a bus, they're gone for 8 hours, they're back, and you talk about, well, hey, what did you learn today? Well, now you can go to TikTok and look at something for 2 minutes, and they can go cook a whole meal. So, I look at that same perspective of AI is that, the way education and value and the way to make revenue and income streams are going, AI allows us to refine that. And I think the Black and brown communities really need to understand the potency of, how strong AI is in a community, in a business model, in education, and just doing everyday tasks and process also.
And I feel like AI is just really important, and I feel like it's important for our community so we don't get left behind, because if you don't understand AI or artificial intelligence, essentially it is machine learning. So what machine learning is the capability to teach and train a model, whether that's a language, whether that's understanding certain concepts with that technology, to then produce or replicate some type of end result, right? So if we're not training those models, if we're not involved on a hands-on perspective, I feel like not only will our skills get replaced, but from the back end, we may be targeted or left out in certain perspectives. So what do you foresee in that sense when it comes to African Americans being involved in AI? Because like I said, it's just kind of scary that we could get either pushed aside, disrupted in a certain sense, or the AI can realize we don't have a specific skill set, or we have a vulnerability within our community. You get what I mean?
I would call it because we always act like gentrification is a curse word.
Right.
I call it the gentrification of education, the gentrification of technology, the gentrification of information.
Right.
We're moving in a day and age where we have to get ahead. It's no different than if you have a bodega on 2nd Street and it was the hood, and then the community comes in and they refine it and they fix it up, and we look at it as if, oh, this is hurting us, they're coming in, they're taking away from us, they're taking away from our community, but they're not. You have to understand how they're coming in. And when I say they, that's not race specific, that's just whatever that entity or those values may be. And actually understanding how they think, how they operate to get ahead of the game. And it's the same thing in AIs. I think that for the Black and brown communities, that if they don't do what is necessarily needed to be done to take action, then they will be left behind.
Right.
And we are already at a disadvantage with our education systems. We're already at a disadvantage with the employment systems. We're already at a disadvantage with our societal hierarchy that we have. So understanding that I feel like AI, I know that AI will allow us to take that step ahead, to be ahead and be in the forefront. But that's all for us to actually sit. No different than how we get on TikTok, we get on Instagram, we scroll for hours a day. Go on YouTube, go on TikTok, go on Instagram, and actually follow pages and values that can better educate you and teach you on what AI is and how it can make your life better.
Awesome. I love that, because I just feel like working in tech, I realized that AI is like the ultimate enabler, right? So I've already cut down my time at work now into seconds from what may have taken me hours. So being able to refine processes, operationalize strategies, business models, and we're talking about reducing the time to market, not only for consumers, but individuals as a productivity level within ourselves. So it's I do think it's just so important for people to gain these skills now, because AI is gonna more rapidly accelerate things that have already been a gap for us in our community. So now it's okay, if it took us 2 years to learn a skill, we're already at the disadvantages in school and the resources, and we don't have the books or certain things, or even just laptops and iPads in our schools. Now it's okay, now all these technologies are gonna be enabled to make things even faster, so we have to get on this wave. So I love that you're out here and you're really big on education. So I really wanna touch on our last thing, bread and butter. That's something where you educate individuals. Talk about really giving back to the community. You came from Memphis, Memphis is a really hard place to make it out of, right? So just being able to make it out, how do you feel empowered giving back to over 3,000 students over the past few years?
It's bigger than the money. It feels better when I'm able to have someone say, I can feed my children, I can pursue this new business venture, I can successfully focus on my goals for school. And to me, I feel like when it comes to me in education, I think what differentiates me from other
influencers,
educators or influencers. I don't even like to use that word, but just educators or coaches or mentors is that they sell what they need to sell to make the money, to continue to sell it more and make more money, versus me is I feel like if you're good at what you do, the money's gonna come behind that.
Right.
So as long as I'm doing what I need to do and providing value to other people, the value is gonna follow me. And for me, I think that's the most important part, to know that as long as I'm assisting people become better and making my purpose more than just myself, and I'm able to pour into other values and other commitments and other goals, that's what makes me satisfied. That gives me the satisfaction I need to keep going.
I love that. All right, so I always end my episodes like this, so you gotta drop the last gem. So if you had to give advice to somebody in Memphis, because you're from Memphis, you know what I'm saying, young, can get caught up in all kinds of things in the city, you know what I'm saying? What advice would you give them on creating a strategy or being an individual who is determined to do something with their life? What would you say?
Set goals, short term, long term, midterm, and ensure that the reality of what those goals are meet your endpoint or your common set of goals. And I think the most important thing along with that is sometimes it's okay to have to take a break from what you want and work on what you need. So, if I were to just drop a mic, I would say that, do what you need first, work for what you need first, and then what you want falls after.
Right, awesome, I love that. Well, we love the boss energy you brought
Yeah,
today,
thank you.
literally. But I just want to thank you for stopping by Big Boss Energy. I love this episode. I love the information that you shared, how you're empowering the community, and most importantly, congrats on your software. And I really hope that, you know, it takes off and does everything that it's supposed to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.